probably heard of them. Maybe you've even hoped for one. Throughout Scripture, we can see how God performs miracles to draw his people back to him. He displayed his power and glory through these miracles. God used these miracles to heal and change lives. God has split and stilled raging seas for his people. He has turned water into wine for his children. He has made the blind see, the deaf hear, and the mute sing. Jesus walked on water and fed thousands from nothing. Better yet, Jesus Christ has raised the dead to life. We know that God was the God of miracles, but do you believe that these miracles can still happen today in your own life? Do you believe that our God is still the God of miracles? Do you believe that God's power can still work in your life? That the God of miracles is still moving here and now? That he can work miracles even in the mundane? Do you believe that God's power can still break through in your life?
Middle school, what's up? How y'all doing today? Good? Nice and cold outside. Sorry you missed all the snow. If you lived like 2 states further north, you'd have had some snow. But no, my name is Caleb Meeks. If you're new to JSM, I'm glad you're here. I'm one of the pastors here at Journey, and I get the privilege to speak with you tonight. But you've been in a series called Miracles, and you've been talking about some miracles from the Old Testament, and next week you're talking about one in the New Testament. But 2 weeks ago, you talked about the miracle of the valley of dry bones in Ezekiel, and then last week, Justin Gray came and spoke, and he talked about Daniel in the lion's den. And now tonight, I want to talk about a story that you may have heard before, but maybe not the same perspective we're going to look at it tonight. Has anybody in here ever heard of a guy named Joshua in the Bible? A guy named Joshua. In fact, my first name is Joshua. I'm actually named after Joshua. Joshua and Caleb are 2 spies in the Bible. That's who I'm named after. But part of their story is what we're going to talk about tonight. And we're talking about a place called Jericho. Everybody heard the story of Jericho and like they marched around these walls and the walls came down? Yeah, that's the miracle we're going to talk about tonight, okay? And we're going to talk about it from a little bit different perspective. But let me tell you a little bit more about Joshua. So the Egyptians, they were enslaved, or the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, and then Moses came in and he had all these different plagues, and he talked to Pharaoh and got him out. Does everybody know some of that story of Moses releasing the Israelites and they become free and they cross the Red Sea and all that fun stuff? So Joshua was in the middle of that story, okay? So Joshua was actually born into slavery. He was born a slave into Egypt. So that means his parents were slaves and he was born there. So all he knew was slavery in his life. So the first part of Joshua's life was him being a slave. But then once they became free and he was then following Moses, he was then a soldier. He was a soldier for Moses, and he helped him fight battles, and they defeated people like the Amalekites, and they won all these little wars. So he went from being a slave to being a soldier. And he was such a good soldier that Moses recognized him. He said, you know what? You're a little bit different. You're a really good leader. I want you to come be a servant under me. So he went from being a slave to a soldier to being a servant under Moses, one of his right-hand people. And he proved himself so trustworthy as a servant that he said, you know what? I want you to be one of my spies. So him and 11 other people, they go into this city. This lady named Rahab, who we're going to talk about in a minute, she kind of hid them in their house while they were spying out this city. And then he was so trustworthy as a spy that he ended up being a successor to Moses. So Moses ended up passing away, and Joshua took over. So Joshua went from being a slave all the way to being the successor of one of the biggest leaders in all of the Bible. So here's where we're going to pick up in the story. Joshua is leading the people to the promised land. Joshua has all these people following him, but all of a sudden, he comes to the city of Jericho, and there's these giant walls, the biggest walls you've ever seen in your life, and they are in his way. They're completely blocking the city, and he's like, how am I going to get inside of this city? This doesn't make any sense at all. And here's where we're going to pick up in the story. Joshua chapter 6, if you have your Bible, you can turn there, Joshua 6. If not, you can look on your phone or you can look on the screen. So Joshua 6, so they're approached this giant wall in the city of Jericho, And here is the story. I'm going to read the whole story, and then we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. So Joshua 6, verse 1, it says this. It says, now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. So basically it was a really, really fortified city. It was hard to get in and hard to get out. And the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city and all the men of war going around the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days. So he's saying, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a bunch of men. I want you to march around this city for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets, and when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, everyone straight before him. So Joshua, hearing all these things, the son of Nun, he called the priests, and he said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord. And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpets with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark while the trumpets blew continually. So they're blowing these trumpets, and they're marching around this giant city. But Joshua commanded the people, you shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout. So as these first 6 days, as they're walking around the city, no one's saying a word. They're completely quiet. They're just marching around the wall. So verse 11, so he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. And the 7 priests, bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord, walked on. And they blew the trumpets continually, and the armed men who were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets blew continually. And on the 2nd day they marched, and they did the same thing over and over again. And then in verse 15 it says, on the 7th day they arose early at the dawn of the day, and they marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you this city. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted for the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall live. So when I told you the spies went into the city, Rahab hid the spies in her house so they wouldn't be found by the people. So since she did that, God allowed her and her household to be saved when these walls were going to come down and the city was going to be destroyed. So that's why it mentions that her and her family was going to be saved. Verse 18 says, but you keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make camp of Israel a thing for destruction and bring trouble upon it. But all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So verse 20, here's kind of the whole point of this story. So the people shouted and the trumpets were blown. And as soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout and the wall fell down flat. So that the people, they went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. What in the world do we do with this story? I'm not telling you that you need to go to the music store and buy a trumpet and start blowing it at a wall. I hope it's going to come down, okay? That's going to be really weird, all right? You'd probably make the news and you'd be all over Facebook and Instagram and TikTok with people saying, look at this kid, he's blowing a trumpet at a wall and he's shouting random things. That's not what I want you to do tonight. But it's a miracle what happened. It made no sense. These people just walked around this city and they blew a trumpet and they shouted and all of a sudden the wall came down. It didn't make any sense at all. But there's 2 things I want you to focus on tonight. I want you to focus on Joshua and Jericho, because we have both of these things in our lives. Tonight, Joshua can represent us, people who believe in God, people who follow after God. And then we all have these Jerichos in our life. A Jericho can be, maybe it's a sin. Maybe it's a sin in your life that you haven't dealt with. It's a really big wall and you feel like, you know what, I just can't get past this. Or maybe God's telling you to do something in your life that just doesn't make any sense. You just feel like, man, I just really feel like I need to start praying for this person, or I need to start doing this, or God's really kind of telling me to do this, and I don't really know about it. That could be a big Jericho moment in your life, something that doesn't make any sense at all, just like walking around a wall and blowing a trumpet. But all of us are Joshuas. All of us are going to be told by God to do something at some point in our lives. And all of us have Jerichos. All of us have walls in our lives. All of us have things that we need God to give us victory over. So tonight, I want to talk about what it looks like to have victory in your life and what it means to really focus on having God win the battle for us. So here's the first thing I want you to realize. And I'm going to demonstrate this for you. Is when we fight, when we have a battle in our life, when we have a problem in our life, we fight from victory and not just for victory. Here's what I mean, and let me give you an illustration of this. Earlier we talked about winter camp. Has anybody ever been to winter camp before? So at winter camp, there's this thing right here. Does anybody know what this thing is right here? This is the spirit flag. So here's the thing. The spirit flag represents victory, okay? In order to win this flag, in order for your team's name to be written upon this flag, which is at front is entirely covered, and we're already on the back. In order for your team, in order for you to have this in your life, is you have to have victory. You have to win. You have to win the day. You have to have the most spirit that day. Flags most often the time represent victory. A lot of times in sports, if somebody wins, you'll see somebody waving a flag per se. And here's what it means to fight from victory, not just for victory. When you have God in your life, and you're about to face a battle, you're about to face something that you don't know if you can win, you already have the victory flag in your hand. God's already given you victory. You can walk into the battle already knowing you won before you even start fighting. It's not like, you know what, here's this really hard thing in my life, and I'm going to do everything I can to get this victory. God is saying, you know what, I've already given you the flag. All you have to do is do what I told you to do. In fact, this is exactly what happened in the story. Check this out. In Joshua chapter 6, verse 1, it says this. Now Jericho was shut up inside and outside because the people of Israel, none went in and none came out. Now look at this in verse 2. This is super important. And the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand. He didn't say, I'm going to give Jericho. He didn't say, I'm going to give you this city. I'm going to give you this victory. He said, I've already given you the victory. All you have to do is do what I want you to do in your life. He's already given Joshua and the army the flag of victory. He's already saying, you know what? You've already won this battle. I've already given the whole city to you. All you have to do is do what I want you to do, is obey me. So in your life, God's already given you victory over things. God's already helped you defeat things in your life. All you have to do is simply do what God wants you to do. Check this out. Here's a few things that God has given you victory over. It says this in Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 4. It says, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory. God is already fighting for you. Things you know about this maybe a sin in your life, maybe a situation in your life, and things you're going to deal with in the future, God's already fighting for you. God's already given you victory over those things. Romans 8:31. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, if God is on our side, if God is on our team, who can be against us? God's already on the winning team. He's already said, you know what? If you're on my side, if you have me in your life, no one can be against you. John 16:33 says this. I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation. In the world you're going to have trials. In the world you're going to have trouble. In the world you're going to have Jerichos in your life. But take heart, I've already overcome the world. He's saying, I've already won the battle. All you have to do is trust in me. Trust in God. God's already given you the victory. The second thing is the victory, the way you have that flag, the way you can say, yes, I am victorious already, it comes through your faith. Victory comes through faith. If you believe in God, you have victory already in your life. Here's how I know that Joshua had faith. Because as soon as the Lord told him to do these things, it says this in verse 6. It says, so Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests and said to them. And then for the next 14 verses, it just lists out all the instructions. He said, hey, here's what God told me to do. I need 7 of you to grab ram's horn trumpets. I need a couple of you to grab this Ark of the Covenant. I need some people to walk here. I need some people to walk there. I need you to walk around the city once a day for 6 days. And then on the seventh day, I want you to walk around it 7 times and then blow the trumpets and the walls are going to come down. Joshua believed what God told him to do. And he had enough faith to live it out. Hebrews 11:1. This is one of the most popular chapters in all the Bible. You've heard it before, but it's about by faith. You see, by faith, Noah did this. By faith, Moses did this. But it says, by faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they had been encircled for 7 days. The reason they had victory is because they had faith in God. If you put your faith in God, if you believe in Jesus, he's going to give you victory. Then it says this in 1 John 5:4, for everyone who's been born of God, anyone who believes in God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. So if you're willing to put your faith in God and believe what he asks you to do, you can have victory. And here's the third thing, and this is possibly the most important thing, is whenever you do have a victory in your life, whenever you overcome something, the victory doesn't belong to you, the victory belongs to God. And our job is to simply point people to him. When you win a battle in your life, whenever something great happens, it's because God allowed it to happen in your life. The victory belongs to God, and all we can say is, you know what? That was God. And point people to him. Our job is to point people closer to Jesus each and every step of the way. Joshua did this. Joshua 6, verse 17 says this, and the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord. He doesn't say it should be devoted to us and that we should put everything in here and we should take everything for ourselves. He says everything in this city should be devoted to the Lord for destruction. This is what he's saying, you know what? The reason we're giving this to God is because that is what God told us to do. And then in verse 19, if you want to skip all the way down, it says, but all silver and gold and every vessel of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. Everything should go to the Lord. That's important because they're saying, you know what? God gave us this victory, and everything here is for him. It's not for us. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says this. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Everything in your life should be to glorify him and not yourself. I've told you this before, and I'll tell you this again in the future, that life's not about you, life's not about me, life's not about us at all. Life is something about God and us pointing people closer to him. And when we have a victory in our life, it's because of God. Psalms 115 verse 1 says this, not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory, for the sake of your steadfast love and your faithfulness. So here's what I want you to pay attention to, and the band's about to come up, and we're going to do something just completely different tonight. But over the next couple of minutes, I want you to think about what's a Jericho in your life? What's something that maybe you've just been struggling with, you haven't been able to get over? It feels like a big wall. Leaders, this is for you too. Maybe God's told you to do something and you've just ignored it for so long because it seemed like it didn't make any sense at all. Or you know what, maybe your parents got divorced a couple years ago and you've just been mad and bitter and you've built up a wall because of it and you haven't been able to get through it. Maybe it's a sin in your life where you just keep going back to it because you keep trying to fight the battle on your own and you realize tonight, hey, I just need God to fight the battle for me because he's already given me victory over it. What's the Jericho in your life? What's the wall that's been built up that you need him to knock down for you? So here's what we're going to do. I told you this was going to be a little weird. All the students and all the leaders in here, I need you to stand up. And what we're about to do is we're going to make a very big circle in this entire room. We're going to circle up, shoulder to shoulder, all the way around this room, okay? I want you to make a giant circle. A big circle all the way around the room. Just keep going around the wall, to the side. If you can connect between the rows, we're going to make a big circle. Make sure you connect. One big circle. So here's the thing. when the Lord told Joshua that he wanted the people to walk around the city of Jericho. Shh. He said, walk around the city of Jericho. And they did it. And on the seventh day, I want you to blow your trumpets and shout, and the walls are going to come down. So here's the thing. Right now, we're standing in a big circle. I just want you to focus on what your Jericho is. What is something in your life that you need God to help you overcome? Or maybe it's something in your life that God's calling you to do that you're afraid to say because it just sounds weird. What does he need to give you victory over? Because here's the thing, we just talked about it, that God's already given you victory over it. God's already said, all you have to do is obey me. It's not easy to do, it's hard to do, but God said, hey, just do what I want you to do. Just listen to me and do what I want you to do. And maybe it's been a couple years where God's been telling you to do something. God's been telling you to deal with something. God's been telling you to pray for somebody. God's been telling you to talk to somebody that hurts you. But maybe tonight you're saying, you know what, God? I'm going to do exactly what you want me to do. You've already given me victory over this. So here's what we're going to do. For the next couple moments, we're just going to worship together. We're going to sing that song, Do It Again. We're going to talk about what it looks like when these people are walking around the wall, but God's broken it down, and God's going to do it again and again in your life if you will simply put your faith in him. So what's something that you want God to deal with? What's a wall that you need God to help you tear down? Over the next couple of moments, I don't want you to pay attention to the person beside you. I don't want you to pay attention to the person in front of you that you see across the room. I just want you to focus on yourself. And say, you know what, God? This is my Jericho. This is the thing that I just need your help with. Maybe it's a friendship. Maybe it's a relationship that just doesn't make any sense. Maybe somebody hurt you. Whatever it is that seems to be bothering you, whatever that big wall in front of you right now is, I just want you to say, you know what, God? This is on you. I'm giving it to you. I'm following your instruction. You've already given me victory over this, and I'm just going to follow what you want me to do. So right now, what I want you to do is I want you to bow your head. I'm going to pray, and then we're simply going to go into a short time of worship together. So God, right now, in this room, there are lots of Jerichos. There are things in our lives, these big walls that we can't even understand. We can't even fathom how we're going to get past them in our lives. But God, we know that through you, we already have victory. God, you've already given us Jericho. That God, that friendship that's broken, you're healing it. That God, that sin in our life, you can help us overcome it. That God, that bitterness and anger that we've held up in our lives for years and built up that wall, God, you can tear it down if we will simply just follow what you want us to do. So God, right now, I pray that you'll give us the courage to just admit, here's my Jericho. Here's the thing that's bothering me. Here's the wall that I've built up. And God, allow us to put our trust and our faith in you and in you alone, knowing that God, you will allow us to have victory. That you will allow these walls to be torn down. So God, right now, as we worship you, as we sing to you, allow us to be our version of shouting to you so that these walls will come down in our lives. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Change to Caleb did an awesome job. You guys give it up for Caleb real quick. Whatever burden that you're carrying, just know, man, that you have people here that are willing to carry that burden with you, that you don't have to carry that burden by yourself. You have small group leaders. You have me. You have tons of other people here. So don't ever feel like you have to carry that burden by yourself. Whatever it may be, man, make sure that you share that with your small group leader.